Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here to News Talk 105.9 WMAL, your favorite radio station. And so many of you have already responded from playing back that little snippet of Rush. We might revisit that later in the program. Also coming up at 8:35, we're going to check in with comedian Leanne Morgan. She's hilarious. We could use a laugh these days, so we'll definitely do that. And when I say we, I mean all of us and Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning, Julie. Good to have you. And it's good to speak with an old friend of the program, former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, who knows firsthand how Jack Smith operates, the special counsel for Donald Trump. Let's not forget that he was the man who engineered the prosecution of Governor McDonnell, which was then overturned by the Supreme Court. Governor, thanks for joining us, sir.
Hey, Larry, Julie, thanks so much. It's been a while, and I appreciate you having me back on.
Well, and you have a very specific and unique and I think important perspective on this whole thing. Let's not forget, these charges were brought against you by the Obama administration and his Justice Department at a time where you were one of the most popular governors in America and on the short list of many Republicans who might run for office, right? For higher office, I should say.
Well, I think others were saying that probably more than me, Larry. But I thought we had a lot of positive things going in Virginia, and then of course the last year the investigation started and became public, and obviously made it very difficult to govern and difficult for my family. But yes, I do have a personal perspective about Mr. Smith. He was head of the Public Integrity Section at DOJ from 2010 to 2015, and obviously would have been the one that would have had to approve the indictments before my case went forward.
And despite their ability to get that conviction, it was overturned by the Supreme Court, we all know. And that, I mean, it sort of speaks volumes about the way the Justice Department conducted themselves in this case, and specifically Jack Smith giving the green light and overseeing the whole thing.
Well, I guess the troubling part for me, Larry, is I knew in my heart and knew from my own legal analysis, and more importantly, having two of the finest law firms in the world, Jones Day and Holland and Knight, both Northern Virginia, D.C.-based firms, that the allegations against me and my wife at the time were just completely wrong. I basically set up meetings for a businessman in Virginia that I didn't even go to the meetings. Spoke well of his business, which of course I did for thousands of companies promoting Virginia jobs. Mm-hmm. And because he was a donor and had given gifts to us, which were legal, and reported that was somehow a crime. And of course, as you just pointed out, it was $28 million in legal fees, 3.5 years of very difficult times for me and my family to get a unanimous Supreme Court decision. You know, when you get Ruth Bader Ginsburg and John Roberts all to agree in a unanimous decision, that says a lot. And here's my
we'll say this about Jack Smith. We finally found the unity in D.C. we've been looking for. I mean, that's something.
Well, it is. But here's the thing. You know, the government's got, and I've been a prosecutor, been attorney general. I think we got the best justice system in the world, but it's not perfect. And you got to put people in these high-profile judgment positions that can call balls and strikes. Our lawyers went to the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. We couldn't get a meeting with the Attorney General. He wouldn't meet. And they had almost a 40-page brief laying out all of the law, the facts of our case, and saying here's why it's woefully short of being an offense. And yet they persisted and indicted me and my wife, and then the rest of the story. But here's my takeaway from that. And it's because it's not just my case, but if you look at the first 5 years, he and his team gave advice to Lois Lerner at the IRS that it was okay to target certain conservatives and audit their tax returns. They botched the case against the former vice presidential candidate, John Edwards, that landed in a mistrial. They ended at a hung jury in the Bob Menendez case. Then you got my case, and there's others. And what it shows me, first of all, it wasn't partisan. This were Democrats and Republicans, but in high-profile cases, I think he exercised bad judgment. I think there was overzealousness. about charging and pursuing people in cases that shouldn't have been brought. And in my view, he'd rather win than get the law right, and that's not what you want. A federal prosecutor that Justice Stevens called virtually uncontrollable at my oral argument. You want to have them to be tethered very closely to the law and not overreach, but I think that's what's happened during his time.
Well, I have to say, you said we have the best judicial system in the world, but an awful lot of people, especially after yesterday, I count myself as one of these people who are a little bit doubting on that point. Jack Smith, he should be a laughingstock. He's a corrupt political tool, and yet here he is in charge of prosecuting Trump. Maybe that has more to do with what more of a swamp DC has become, more than the judicial system. But how do you feel about the situation in DC these days, and how this is happening and so brazenly happening? What does that say to voters? What does that say to the American public?
Boy, Julie, that's about a whole hour show, but
I
I
know.
appreciate you bringing that up. But I tell you, when you begin to weaponize the criminal justice system, and I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, but you begin to unfairly target political opponents with criminal offenses, you so undermine the rule of law that the average citizen does lose faith in the institution. And that's more dangerous than any individual policy or any individual who would be president. When people lose faith either in the electoral system or a justice system, you undermine your democracy. Now, I'm going to be fair, because if Jack Smith actually has evidence where he can prove, particularly, let's say in that Florida documents case, that what he alleges in that indictment on knowingly moving documents around, refusing to give things back, etc., if they have evidence to prove that, then I think the former president's got some criminal culpability. I just hate to try cases in the press, because we really don't get a fair shake on what the evidence is. There's always spin, there's proof texting, so we don't know. But especially when Hunter Biden gets a pass, and then we see this third round of indictments yesterday. It does make one wonder if there's fair play.
And it's also Hillary that got
it just goes on and on.
It's not
And let's not forget, as tragic as it was that it really sort of put a stop to your up and coming political career, it sort of put a halt to the Republican Party in Virginia. You had Ken Cuccinelli in line coming as Attorney General to replace you as governor. This thing hung over the entire party, Governor McDonnell. That brought Terry McAuliffe in. Terry McAuliffe comes in there and then changes a lot of the voting schemes in Virginia, which helps Ralph Northam get elected.
And then parents are where we are today.
Yeah, and look at, we lost 10 years for the Republican Party there because of this, and it's hard not to see.
We want you to get more angry.
Come on. Why aren't you angrier?
Well, Julie, thank God, there's mercy and redemption, and I have no bitterness. They made a mistake. I haven't gotten the apology letter yet, I will say that, but I've been very blessed to go on with my life and do productive things and have grandchildren. But, the average citizen, here's the point, the prosecutors have all the investigators, they've got the resources. When they indict people, it's crushing, and most citizens can't stand up to that. Now, I had two great law firms, Jones Day, the largest firm in the country at the time, with great people that thought this was absolutely unjust. And, they were willing to do the case whether they got paid or not. Most people don't, have those kind of resources, so they cave and they get beaten down and they plead guilty, whether they're guilty or not. And so here's the other thing that I'm concerned with Mr. Smith. There's an ethical rule for government attorneys. And again, when I was a prosecutor, I had to abide by this. But government attorneys, prosecutors, are supposed to seek truth and justice and not merely to convict.
That's right.
It's not about winning. It's about being just, not only for the defendant, but for society.
That's right.
No other attorney has that duty, Larry and Julie. Every other attorney, it's zealous advocacy. And I think Mr. Smith has turned into a zealous advocate for a cause, but that's not his duty. That's not the ethical duty of a government attorney. I think that's important to note.
Well said, sir. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you joining us. And as we see this process go on, hopefully we can check in with you again.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. I thank you for having me on. It's been a while, and I used to enjoy those monthly travels up to D.C. to be on.
Yeah,
Aw.
same here. And listen, you are honestly, I mean, you're a testament to how you get through something like this. The fact that you are able to have the mercy and forgiveness, where I don't know if I would be able to. So thank you for
Yeah.
that testimony
Yeah.
as well.
Well, you're both very kind. I appreciate it. Look forward to coming on again. Thank you.
Thank you.
So magnanimous. My goodness.
You know, he won by 17 points in that 2009 election.
Yeah. Yeah.
Republican, the year after Obama was elected president in Virginia, the Republican won by 17 points.
Yeah, well,
so
you
he and the
connecting
party had to be
You
destroyed.
connecting the dots and that decade of loss we had from leadership like that. Now I'm a little angry. I'm going to try to be that